when you think about advocacy and lobbying? What do you stand for? That's a personal thought. What do you stand for? What are your kind of internal moral compasses? What are the things that you think are good or bad? What do you think is a good or a bad thing for business? What's your moral compass around the broader issue? What do you think is fair and right and reasonable? And then what do you think is right for your country? And then the other way that what do you stand for statement operates is, I want you to be thinking about positive rather than negative. A lot of people, when they think about advocacy and lobbying, have a bad habit of being opposed to everything. Whatever it is, I'm opposed to it. I don't want an increase in the minimum wage. I don't want increased costs for business. I don't want to pay for infrastructure. I don't want risks. That's all staying against things. See that? That sounds very negative. Whatever it is, I'm opposed to it. Instead of saying I'm opposed to an increase in the minimum wage, even if you might be, what you'd say is, I'm after jobs. I want jobs for young people. I want young people and those at the margins of the labour force to be able to enter the workforce and get their first job and then move into a better job over time. That's why I think a rise in the minimum wage will be so damaging, because it'll mean those young people don't get their first opportunity in the labour market. See how one sounded very negative, I'm opposed to an increase in the minimum wage, and one sounded really positive because actually you stand for kids getting their first job. Another way of putting that is, what's your contribution? How do you contribute personally and through your business organisation and the business community more generally in your country? How do you contribute to national success? And you're about trying to make people either do things or not do things that are in the interests of your members and hopefully in the interests of the country. One of the ways I describe that is to talk about French and German. Business people speak German in every country, with all of that I've described, and saying that, the German language and German culture and so on. Politicians, they speak French. So what you need to do as a business organisation is to translate. You need to be German, you need to be business, but you need to go across to Paris and speak fluent French and completely understand and engage with the way in which politicians and policymakers think. They think differently to the way that business thinks. They have different time horizons, different measures of success. Advocacy is all activities that you might do, and this is a core function of any business organisation, as you just heard a minute ago. All actions designed to influence attitudes and policies, and that may not even be lobbying. Let me give you an example. When I was Chief Executive of Business New Zealand, I would deliver between 5 and 6 speeches a week to various audiences a week, sometimes 3 a day. That's not lobbying. I'm not talking to a politician trying to get them to change a law. What that's about is I'm attempting to influence the broader national conversation about business, right? I talk to the media every day, several times a day, back in the old times. And once again, that's not lobbying. Sometimes it was close, but not really lobbying. What that's about is advocating the business agenda. Lobbying's a subset of that. It's a key advocacy tool. That's about specifically making decision makers, often politicians, more often officials, actually bureaucrats, government officials, certainly in my country, maybe slightly different in some of yours, but I'm going to think it's much the same. It's actually about them taking a specific stand on a specific issue. So lobbying is, if you like, a subset of advocacy. Small businesses will often join because there's a discount, or they can get some industrial relations advice about firing people or something like that. Certainly the larger businesses who will pay the bigger fees inside your organisation often join for a cause. They join because they believe that what you're saying is important. They believe that a collective business voice is important. And if the politicians were to pass a law that I didn't like, I would say, we don't like that law. We think that's going to be bad for our country, not for my members. It's going to be bad for our country. Remember, you're after your country. Bad for our communities. Explain why. Hopefully the public will know why, because you've told them why you think it'll be a bad thing on the way through. And then what you then need to do is keep at that. to keep on saying over time, here's the, as the law comes into place and it put costs onto business, say that. This law has cost businesses $5 million or something. And then the good way of putting that is to put that in the context of the people that you want to influence. So one of the great ways that business organisations describe this is they say that's cost jobs. It's cost 5,000 jobs, that law, that bad law. So what you're going to do is try and explain it, what the impact of that bad law is, not in the context just of balance sheets or profit and loss statements, because most people aren't particularly sympathetic about that. They don't necessarily think that business should make a profit, actually. But if you describe it in the context of jobs in communities, then most people will identify with that. You've heard that saying, success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. You heard that saying? Never more true that when it comes to advocacy and lobbying, the politician who passes a law because you were successfully advocating with that person will claim it as his own. It was my brilliant idea. Why is that? Because he needs people to vote for him. He wants to make a statement about the business community. Other organisations who had nothing to do with it will jump on the bandwagon and put out a press statement and say, oh, we did that, thanks very much. All that is them going to their members to say, look, aren't we very important and successful? First point, don't sweat about that. Success has many fathers. You can't stop those people saying all that stuff, so don't worry about it, don't get upset about it, have a good sleep, life goes on. All right, don't worry about it. The best thing you can do to justify your role in that is to be able to demonstrate all of the work that you did before it happened. That's why I say advocacy is a contact sport. It is not something done in secret. Okay? When you go see a politician or have a function or put out a press statement, I guess that last one is public by its definition, be public about it. Say what you said. Member newsletters, tell them what you're advocating, so that when the government comes up with a conclusion that looks remarkably like that, you can say, look at that. We said that a year ago and now the politicians have done this. Isn't that great? There's the success of our lobbying and advocacy effort. Get the idea? People often think in business that success is when something different happens. All right? Success is an impact measure. I did something and something changed. That's how businesses often think about success. That is not success for you, okay? That is the ultimate success. But actually you have a different measure as well as that one. You have an impact measure, but you also have an activity measure. I met with a politician and advocated. I ran a cocktail function and said something. I put out a press statement which said. I ran a questionnaire which asked. These are all actually activity measures. Don't think they don't matter. Advocacy is water on a rock. Drip, drip, drip. All of a sudden, the rock cracks. That's what happened. Was it the first drop or the last drop that caused the rock to crack? We don't know. But what we do know is that the water caused the rock to crack. The very first time that you advocate for a sectional interest of your members that is not in the interest of your country is the last thing you'll do as a business organisation. Okay, you'll just lose trust and faith instantly when you do that, and it will take you years or decades to build it back. Employers and business organisations are really, really long-lived creatures for this reason, that the role of advocating and of lobbying is an ongoing one. That means don't stress the small stuff. You'll have a heart attack if you get really deeply worried about every little thing that happens. You need to be, of course, active about that, but keep your head on the long term. Remember what I said to you about standing for things. Have your own moral compass about what's going on. If you think that the business person you're talking to is asking you for something that is deeply unfair or unreasonable, it's okay for you to think that. You need to bring your moral compass to this game. Business people and politicians are asking you to do that. Be accountable to that. But stand for something from a business organisation perspective as well. Don't stand against things so much. What do you stand for? You stand for the success of your country. I spent 11 long, hard years working for my organisation, not because it was a great job and it paid well, although those things were true. Actually, I did it because I wanted to contribute to New Zealand. I wanted to make sure that New Zealand was a better place to live and to work and to raise kids. Last point, engage, engage, engage. This is a contact sport. Be out and talk to people, be out and feel confident about building your message, because by doing that, we'll have a better idea about what business actually needs, but more importantly, more people are going to support what business needs.